Welcome, everybody, to the Curious is Better podcast. I'm Craig Lamb with Innovative, and today we're joined with Brie Reis from Elite Roofing and Solar. Thanks, Brie. Um, Listen, I want to jump right in because I think you have one of the coolest stories of anybody I've talked to. You went from like an admin at the company, and now you're the CEO. So can you just take a minute and walk through, just because I just think that journey is so cool. Can you just walk through um, how you got there and some of the things that you've seen?
Yeah, I was really blessed. I got in with the company right at its beginning. And so I like to say I got to grow with the company. Like I got to grow up with the company. So I was the second employee with the company, brought in as an admin, a family business. So that helped as well. And so we just took off. And so we're in the Denver area. And so we worked the Front Range of Colorado. They call that Hell Valley. So we also got in right about the same time that we got just a series of hailstorms year over year over year. So we were growing about 30% year over year from the beginning. And so as the company had a need, I just jumped in and filled it. And so at one point, our mom, so the owner Randy and my mom, she was the office manager, and we were just like crazy butting heads. So kind of almost to separate us in a way, Randy was like, "I'm going to put you in production," and it was
Wow.
like all the lights in the world turned on for me. It was just like a world of work can be a game, and it's a big giant strategy and putting things in place. And all of a sudden, I got to realize like my own personal genius is kind of the words that I use to describe it. And it was just the absolute best seat for me. So I was able to shine in that role. And with us being newer, I was able to put all the pieces in place. I didn't have any like restrictions. I just, had a empty room that I could just had the ability to go fill. And
Uh-huh.
so that's what I did. And we grew and grew and grew. And as my mom moved on and things like that, like we really needed an operator in the other areas of the business. And that's kind of where I transitioned from production into operations. Um, and
Well,
then
so
Randy,
Brie,
oh, yeah,
I hate to, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that, but like
no,
you and I have spoken before, and you had mentioned too is that like that you brought a major shift of just attitude and culture, like away from like paper based and you know bringing in for the technology and stuff. So how did you know what to tackle first? Because I'm just guessing that your approach is different from the old guard. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think I came in with a little bit of a that kind of chip. I'm a millennial, and my predecessor was using a lot of paper, and I just wanted to prove it. Like this is not efficient. I just really wanted to come in. So that was we really, because we're a young leadership team to begin with, we always had a CRM. We worked on Excel for the first year, and then we got a CRM very, very quickly in. We've moved away from that CRM and we're in a different CRM now. So from that instance, we did have some form of technology from the beginning, but we were still all paper files, all paper financial filing, just a ridiculous amount of paper. So moving completely into the CRM and abandoning the paper was my first objective. I wanted to stop moving the files. It was just a complete and utter waste of time in my millennial mind. And so it took me a long time to get that past, the older, leader that we had, our office, and she's my mom. So
did
I
you
got to
have
be
cultural
gentle. She's going to
resistance
listen to
though
this.
from the teams? Or because you seem
A
like
little
you have
bit,
leaders. So
a little bit.
how'd you face that? Because it's
I,
like we talk with people all the time, and I'm sure you're us. We've always done it this way, right? And then when you're looking for efficiencies, and even if the efficiencies don't work out, it's like, well, we're not going to do it like we've always done it. Like we're going to do that. We're going to try this, and we're going to optimize this. Was there resistance in that regard?
yeah, we did have some. I mean, I think everybody has apprehension to change. I think, whether you're on board with the idea of shifting or not, you still have an
Right.
apprehension to change. So I think it's just being able, one, to have built a culture of trust in your organization. Because I do, even to this day, have a lot of conversations with my teams that circle around, I just need you to trust me one more time.
Mm.
And every time I appreciate the resistance, because when you get that resistance and then you're able to deliver, that's what creates that next level of trust. And so the next thing that I want to change with my team, they're going to remember like, hey, I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable with that idea, but it's actually worked out. I wasn't comfortable with that other idea. I thought, like it's actually worked out. And so I'm like, I would much rather have that resistance and show them that I deserve their trust than for them to just blindly, because it creates more credibility for myself every time that happens. So I think you definitely
If you
have
were
to
to
have a
reflect on the
culture.
first few years that you were there, or like in the role you were in there,
Yeah.
is there any particular system or platform that you think had the biggest impact on your team or your process or operations?
Like specific software
What
or just
yeah,
process
you
in
tell me,
general.
or it could be just the introduction of something. Listen, you're a bit of an anomaly. We could, and I want to talk about this after too, is like you started tinkering on your own, right? Different from many clients that
Mhm.
we've had. Like you started tinkering on your own, doing your own integrations, trying your own implementations and stuff like that. So you're kind of you know, an enigma in that regard. But I was just wondering if there was something that popped out in your head that was like, yes, that we did this. Either we did it first. I don't want to lead it, but if you're driving through like with a digital strategy, maybe it's the first one that's just an adoption system where it's just like we're going to go this way, and maybe either the crew or the back office noticed it first. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that for sure the paper was the biggest thing for me, and that is what we did first. And I mean, the impact was enormous because we were doing everything twice. We were scanning all the paper
Multiple
files
copy,
into
multiple
the
folders.
CRM, and now we have a folder, we have a copy in the CRM. Nobody's, it was just, I think I would honestly say the financial scanning was probably the biggest because we were, for example, printing 3 receipts for every transaction, putting them in the job file, putting them in the other file, putting them in the statement file. And so like to stop that altogether, we literally, I mean, I don't want to encourage people to get rid of team, but you also don't want to overstaff if it's unnecessary to your bottom line. And so like we were able to remove an employee entirely through that process. In our instance, we didn't actually remove her. We just moved her to a different area, but it's just like we don't need as many people to push all those inefficiencies around anymore. So I think that was probably the biggest impact
Yeah.
from the front end side.
Well, like I said, in our previous conversations, we talked about how you were impressed with just even for onboarding and crews and stuff with an LMS, making sure that the operating procedures of Elite were being followed and that they were being, dispatched and educated properly. So you did a lot of work in that regard. Did you see that that was accepted, and do you see the impact of that benefit? The digital.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that we now have organized videos to onboard and train, and then we have a separate business called the Roofing Academy, and that's where we have all built out an entire platform of onboarding videos. And it's just massively beneficial. It's so much easier to bring on staff, to have a like set of training requirements for them even before they even jump in, and then for them to have a video to go back and say, okay, this is how I do this is how I do that. Like it saves so much time in that process, and um, it absolutely leads to retention and all of those things. So that has been worth it 1,000 times over. And now we're like right at the point where we gotta, especially with like all our SOP videos, we gotta like go back and start revising them. And so there's time, energy, and effort that goes into all of that. Um, but so worth it 1,000 times over.
Are there any other digital channels that you're looking into? I don't know that you and I have talked about this before, but were you looking at any like AI stuff or using private agents and anything like that for your SOPs? If we talked
Yeah.
about it, maybe, but I don't remember if we did.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about it, but we are dancing around AI, and we are using it for rehash. So, for example, we have an AI agent reaching out to all of our roof replacement clients to see if they want solar.
Oh, sure.
So we're like scratching the surface of it. I think we're gonna dive in a little bit deeper next year. I feel, and maybe you have some feedback here for me. Even it's like, is it there yet?
Yeah, we can
I've heard
typically,
some, and they're like clicking
we'll
away, like
we'll take
is it there yet?
for sure. Yeah, I definitely have opinions, that, but
Yep.
yeah, only because it's the most common thing that we're hearing right now. Like in every business, like it seems like there little pieces of their business, whether it be operation or sales, are like these. The curious in their staff start using ChatGPT, right? And then they come back to their report. Well, ChatGPT said this. It's like, well, listen, it's not the end all be all, and it's using the same sources you already have available to you, like Google and Wikipedia and whatever. But
Mhm.
private chats have become so unbelievably popular because we're mining your CRM, we're mining your operational ERP data. And so it's reporting back to you through an LLM in your business. So it is popular. And I just didn't know. Everybody seems to have apprehension because it's like there's that bell curve, right? That we've all seen. It like you're definitely on the forward leaning of it. But some of them are like, I'm not doing anything until it's been, the dust is completely settled and there's zero risk. But by then they're so far behind. It's the
Yeah.
next technical, awesomeness that's coming. But
And that's definitely what I'm hearing with AI. And I am concerned about that. I'm like, man, if I don't dive in full on, am I going to never be able to catch up to my competitors? But I also am in an industry where I'm already so far in front of the
oh,
majority of
Brie,
my
you,
competitors that,
yeah, you're miles ahead. I mean, just with the attitude, it's interesting. Construction's such it's kind of confusing to me is that it's rife for optimization opportunities, but it's almost like dismissive of playing the corporate rules, right? It's like, well, we're in construction. It's somehow like this blue collar implementation relieves it from looking at all of the opportunities for corporate optimization, right? But not you, right? You're picking that apart. So yeah, I would say that you're miles ahead. But it is interesting about the AI side. But that brings up to another question, and we only talked about it briefly, but I want you to expand on it. Is that you're tech forward, and a lot of the stuff that either Inventive does or does not do, and then you have to go find a tech partner. Like, what's that process for you? How do you know that you're getting a good team, a good engineer, a good product? Like, what's the vetting? Because that comes up a lot for us. And I always challenge it back to the people I talk to is like, we want to make sure that that you're comfortable that you've made a good decision. But I think I mentioned this to you before. It's like when you're trying to pick a lawyer, if you're really in trouble, you're not Googling lawyer, right? Right?
yeah,
You're
right,
reaching
you're
out to
going
your
to your
network,
sources.
or there's some checklist that you're going to do. So what do you do to figure out when you have good tech partners or any partners for that matter to help a lead?
Yeah, I really actually like to start at my current tech stack because I really like my technology to speak to each other. Um, and again, like I've done most of my own integration. So as far as forcing that is not something that I have been able to do on my own. And so like I really want to like start with, okay, what are my options based on what could actually integrate with what I'm currently using?
Mhm.
And so I want everything to flow through, not create more inefficiencies because now you have breakpoints and you're having to upload and unload and or download and all of the other things. I want everything to just speak to itself. I'm not perfect yet. I have not arrived there, but that is the first thing that I look at. And if there isn't a partner that fits inside that criteria, that's when I'll step outside. And exactly go to my network. I go back. I like to save. I know that people do so much solicitation, and so it's ignored in a lot of instances these days. But I do save those sorts of things. Like when I do get information that it seems just a little bit curious to me, I'll throw it in a folder for another time. These people did seek me out. They did look, they think we're going to be a good fit. Maybe I'll go talk to them. And then I really dive in with the demo side of things because I think one, I don't want to demo with a salesperson because a salesperson most commonly doesn't even understand the software themselves. So that's like number one for me. Do not put me on a demo with a salesperson. I'm just like, I probably won't go with you even any further
Mark
if you
that
don't
one
have
down.
somebody.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
that's a highlight, right?
Yeah. Highlight. Yeah. They don't know their softwares. That's not their role. Not the role. They've most often have never even worked in the system. They know how to do the demo and that's about it. So, and
Yeah,
then
but
go
you
ahead.
said one thing too that I want to make sure that I point out because I think it's really relevant. Is that you said that when you're investigating either software packages or partners, is that you think about the process that you're doing now and your current stack, and if it does not fit nicely into that process for your current stack, then you'll have to look for some custom stuff, and maybe solicit your network. But all too often, don't you agree that people that take a piece of software, they'll get some sales guy to do the demo. They're like, well, that's about 75, 80% of what I need. And then you don't really take into consideration that extraneous bloat of clicks and processes where you're like, oh, I'm gonna upload, download, do this, do this, do this. But it does get it done. But that's not acceptable for a lead, which I think is also towing the line. I'm a huge proponent of, but I don't think that that's typical. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. But then I think that a lot of companies live in frustration because of that.
Yeah.
And then they bounce around software because of that.
Well, is there anything, I don't want to lift up the curtain here, but like, are there friction points right now that you're dealing with that like you're like, well, this integration isn't working or this package isn't working and you're in search of?
Yeah. I think I think software is a cash-based business, and so I think they build their softwares around being cash-based businesses. But most of us, at least in the construction space, have to be accrual-based business. So I think that they do a lot of things in their software that are built around a cash-based business that don't necessarily support accrual-based businesses, which is literally the clients that they're trying to procure. And so it's frustrating for me because it's like, how could they, one, not think that far ahead and project, you know, that this is the client we're going for and this is what they need. But a lot of people, especially in the roofing side, man, like a lot of my consulting businesses, they don't understand how to get their business on accrual. And then they have a software that doesn't support accrual. And so now they go to get a line of credit. They've been running their business on cash this entire time and they can't get a line of credit because they have no accrual ability or no
No evidence of
accrual,
their
yes,
knowledge.
to send to the bank to get those lines. So there's downward rolling issues with the fact that I think many softwares are not based around accrual.
Huh.
And you can do it, but the
You can
software
do it.
won't. Yeah.
All right. So I ask this a lot of the times too, is like if time or money were any constraints, they're not considerations. What's something that you'd automate in your business tomorrow or industry wide, like, or in your industry, like our industry's missing this. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Such a good question. Time and money
Yeah.
together.
Time and money don't matter. See, I think this is going to be tough for you because, like, someone who's not using technology at all, they might be able to rifle one off and they'll just say something like, kind of like this big but yet ambiguous whatever. It's like I don't want to ever have to have a pen or piece of paper or something like that. But you've tackled your business like in these containers of effort, and you've assembled this stack for elite. So like that's why I try to give you the out with the industry.
Yeah, I think that's
Versus
what I would do though, is that, and maybe it's not helpful to listeners, and I hope maybe that it is, but it's going to be very, very individual to me, I think. And that is that I wouldn't want a stack. I want one software that does all those things. Like
you
I
would.
want to remove all the connection points. Like I want to be able to track my time inside of my CRM that can just link directly to the job and not have to pull all those jobs into my time tracking software so that my staff can clock in and out of their job costs. And I'd want to take away all of all those connections and there just be one software that could do the thing.
Yeah, and maybe that would attract the people in your industry that are interested in that tech forward idea. And the ones that aren't wouldn't. Let's shift gears to and kind of like do this crescendo question. Like, so you've been really successful at moving through the ranks, albeit a family business, but moving through the ranks, adjusting the culture of the company, moving tech through, really investigating some innovations and just keeping elite right on its toes and moving forward. What advice would you give another small business leader about tackling either legacy systems, lack of systems, corporate culture into technology and innovations, like those challenges you had, like, and again, you're unbelievably young for the position, but you've like, it seems to have the experience of like this war-torn leader. But do you have anything you can dispense to another small business owner about these things because they might be facing now?
Yeah, I would say my advice, I think, would be question everything and don't allow ceilings and walls in your space. Like, can never be the answer to something. Like, push through all the areas that you think you can't push through. And every time you do that, you'll find yourself just a little bit more successful and that your business is growing a little bit more. Like, remove the restraints that you place on your own business, on your own mind, on your own staff, all of it.
Good advice. Well, thanks, Brie. This has been the Curious is Better podcast. I really appreciate you coming. I love your story. I love the background, and I'm going to circle back with you anyway because we got other stuff to talk about. This was awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you